Welcome to this week's video. This one is going to be super practical one. I am going to share with you specific phrases and tactics that you can use to handle gracefully and in a positive way awkward and uncomfortable conversations and questions. For the longest time, I really struggled with how to respond in situations where people would say something to me that I would find upsetting, insensitive, sometimes hurtful, sometimes just a little bit too personal. And the thing was that I really did not want to hurt the other person or damage the relationship in any way. And a people pleaser in me always would feel like I can't really stand my ground here without damaging the relationship, and therefore I always felt compelled to respond and participate in the conversation. So over the years, I've worked so hard on changing that, and now I know that I can respond to the situations in a way that are comfortable and in alignment with myself, where I honor what I feel and experience and continue to have a fruitful and productive relationship with those people. So let's start with a couple of key mindset shifts. First one is we have to remember that we have the freedom to choose whether we respond to something or not. The dynamic of a conversation is such that when someone asks us a question, we often feel like if the question is asked, we have to answer it, but we actually don't. And just as much as I talk about how we get to choose our thoughts, we also have the freedom and the choice to decide whether we want to participate in a discussion or a conversation about something or not. That's one. Number two is we have to live with two key ideas at the same time. First one is that in majority cases, most people who say stuff that makes us awkward and uncomfortable, they do this with the best of intentions. They just might have a different worldview, different sensitivities to different things. They might just have not thought about something properly. Most of the time, we don't put that much thought into what we say and what we ask. Heck, you might have been one of those people who've said or asked someone something that has unintentionally have hurt them or made them feel uncomfortable. You may not even know about this. But the bottom line here is that most times people do this with the best of intentions, and in no way they're trying to hurt or harm us in any way. The other idea that I want you to hold at the same time is this does not mean that you should not honor your reality and your feelings. You can absolutely do that, and you can do that without hurting the relationship and the dynamics in any way. So what that means is there's nobody who's right or wrong, nobody who's a bad or a good person, nobody's a victim or a perpetrator. You're two equals respecting your own realities and doing that in a positive, productive, constructive way. Having that worldview already helps you to have the conversation with someone in a much more empowering and productive way, compared to the one where you may feel like, oh, this is awkward and I can't say anything because then it's going to be even more awkward and I can't handle the awkwardness, so I'm just going to have to respond to this question that I really don't want to talk about. And again, for different people, these sorts of things could be very different. For someone, it might be absolutely normal to talk about, I don't know, how much money they make, how much their partner makes, how many kids are they going to have, or why don't they want kids, or, you know, any of the other sort of questions or situations that might be more personal for some people than others. Again, doesn't matter right or wrong. But the key that I want you to take away is that you always should be honoring your reality and your feelings. When we hold something back, it always finds its way to manifest somewhere else. This is the number one thing that I've been learning in years of my therapy journey, where the people pleaser in me always tried to avoid doing something that in my mind could have hurt somebody else or upset somebody else. And I often thought that it's kind of easier to just kind of take the conversation and just go along with it than to say something. And I'm so pleased that I no longer think that way. And I have the tools and the phrases to be able to handle those situations with confidence and grace. And that's what I'm going to share with you now. Okay. So the first phrase or tactic that is incredibly powerful one and is the one that I use the most is actually confidently, calmly calling out how the question or the statement or phrase made you feel. Now, the key here is your tone of voice, your intonation, and how clear you make that you know that the person did not want to be hurtful or upset you in any way. You can do this in a way where the person is going to feel defensive and become defensive in their response. But if you use an open and friendly tone, you will be able to honor your feelings and not have this conversation and not respond to the questions and all that without actually making it more awkward moving forward. The way this would look like is you would genuinely respond with saying something along the lines of, oh, look, I know you did not mean to upset me or cross any boundaries here, but I actually found this question really upsetting. And stop. Don't over-explain yourself. Again, you do not need to apologize for your own reality, but also notice how in this instance, I am not making the other person the victim either. I'm not saying that they're a bad person or anything else like that. Typically, in my experience, the response of the other person is, it's almost like a jolt. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I really did not want to hurt you. And they themselves want to move on from this topic and conversation. And you can just move on. From there, you'll be like, look, no worries. I know. Let's talk about something else. Tell me about your upcoming holidays. That's it. I've had this type of conversation a lot of the times, both at work and in my personal life. And I'm telling you, even if it feels scary in the beginning, or it feels like calling out what you feel makes you weaker, it is not. It is one of the strongest and confident things you can do. And at the same time, this actually helps you strengthen the relationship with the other person because you're doing it in a positive way and they now know exactly where you stand. So this one is the one I'll always recommend. Another particular tactic or phrase could be to ask a question back to the person. So if someone asks or says something to you that, again, you may find intrusive, upsetting, hurtful, you can actually ask them what their intent was. And you can say, oh, I'm curious to know, why would you like to know that? Or, oh, what was your intent of behind saying this to me? And again, your tone and intonation matter so much more than what you actually say. Because you can say those things in a way that guaranteed the other person is going to be defensive. If you say, oh, why would you say that? Most likely you're going to get the defensive back of, ooh, why are you so sensitive? Or, any of this kind of dismissive behavior. But if you say it in a different tone with a more open language and kind of open tone of voice, more likely you're not going to get defensiveness. Third point is you still may get defensiveness because you can't control how the other person responds, right? Some people may not be able to tolerate that discomfort. Some people may actually, hopefully this would be very rare, but some people maybe unconsciously or maybe even consciously did want to make you feel awkward. Maybe they did want to make you feel uncomfortable. Maybe they said something in front of many people, and you actually calling it out and saying, oh, why would you say that in front of everybody here? Or were you trying to make me feel uncomfortable or, expose something? I don't know, any of those sorts of things most likely will actually make the other person feel really defensive if it exposes that real intent. In that case, though, I'm going to say it is not a bad thing because you are still coming out as a winner here. Not that I want to have any winners or losers here, but you're a winner because you have honored your feelings and your reality and you've named what you've experienced. If the other person then becomes defensive with you in return, then that's up to them. And, again, you always have the freedom to choose how you respond. And you can call that out and say, oh, I feel like you're being, you're acting defensive here. Or if they say, oh, why are you being so sensitive? And, you can just acknowledge and be like, yeah, look, this is important to me, or I'm a sensitive person. If you don't fight something like this, there's nothing else the person can actually do. And again, just gently move on to a different conversation. And finally, you may choose to kind of have an indirect way of handling it. Maybe respond with a joke, say something, completely change the subject, which kind of all work. Because I'd always rather you don't talk about things that make you uncomfortable and avoid doing that at all costs. But I'm still a big fan of calling things out in a more direct way, and particularly naming what is it that you're experiencing and feeling. So I would recommend to not use those as your go-to tool and instead try the more direct approach with naming and saying what is it that you experienced as a result of someone saying or asking you that phrase. That's it for today, and as always, thank you for watching. If you have any other approaches or questions that you use personally, I would love to hear about them, and I will see you in the next video.